will call the meeting to order for Wednesday, January 12th, 2002 at 5:20 p.m. Please rise and join in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Zerlo, would you please conduct a roll call?
Certainly. Mr. Castine.
Present.
Mr. Mazzaio.
Here.
Mr. Hall.
Here.
Mr. Henry.
Here.
Mr. Hughes.
Here.
Mr. Kretzer.
Here.
Mr. Courier.
Here.
Mr. Potiphar is asked to be excused this evening. Mr. Timmons.
Here.
Ms. Walters is asked to be excused this evening. Me? Yeah. Okay.
All legislators have received a copy of the stenographer's minutes of the December 20th, 2021 regular session. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented. I have a motion by legislator Hall, second by legislator Timmons. All in favor? Any discussion?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Also, all legislators have received a copy of the stenographer's minutes of the January 4th, 2022 organizational meeting. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections to that, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Motion by legislator Hughes, second by legislator Mazzaio. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried as well. I will now recognize those in the audience who wish to share their thoughts and concerns with the legislature. Please raise your hand. If you wish to be recognized, state your name and address for the record. And in accordance with the rules of order, all speakers will be limited to 5 minutes. Is there anybody who would like to speak? Anyone at all? Yes, ma'am.
No.
You gotta wait.
No, I know you're anxious.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
I know you're anxious, but not quite yet.
I thought maybe you had something else to add. I'll get to it. All right, so no one to speak. We will now go to the committee reports. I will call on the chairperson of each committee in alphabetical order by committee, starting with Buildings and Grounds and Legislative Timmons.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Buildings and Grounds Committee has not met since the last regular session. The committee was pulled on resolutions 11 and 12 on today's agenda, and the report.
Mr. Chairman, it's probably prudent, and I apologize, I should have put it in the agenda, but I'm anticipating that actual 2022 committees will start in the first week of February, so that's why there's no dates associated with the next committee meeting. So until you convene those committees, the membership of those committees, we left it blank, but it will start with the same dates and times as 2021, and if some of those do not work for chairman and committee members, we'll always work with you to facilitate a time that works for everybody. But that's why there'll be no reports on when the next meeting date is this evening.
Thank you. Children and Family Services, Mr. Gerber, you have that report?
I do.
So if you don't mind.
The Children and Family Services Committee has not met since last regular session, and the committee was polled on resolutions 13 and 14, which are on tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Economic Development, I believe you have that one as well.
Yes, on behalf of Legislator Walter, the Economic Development and County Operations Committee has not met since last regular session. The committee was polled on resolutions 15 through 21 on today's agenda. I will say that Ms. Ryan, you might have read in the newspaper, has started her job as Economic Development Director for the county and Executive Director of the IDA. She has hit the ground running, full of energy, and we will be well served by her being part of our team. So, plus I'm no longer the interim director of the IDA, which is fabulous.
You still part of it, now you still do things from our report.
Oh, sorry.
I won't have anything to say now. Finance Committee, Legislator Timmons.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Finance Committee has not met since the last regular session. The Finance Committee was polled on resolutions 22 and 23 on today's agenda, and the report.
Thank you, sir. Health Committee, and Legislator Hughes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Health Committee has not met since the last regular session. With us tonight is Deborah Tackett, the Interim Director of Public Health, and she's going to provide us with a brief COVID-19 update.
Don't yell at us like your predecessor.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So things are a bit crazy, as they have been, but a little bit crazier than they have been most recently. Our case numbers are up. We are right now at a very high transmission rate with a positivity rate of almost 23%. Our cases, total cases, over the last 7 days, and that's from the 2nd through the 9th, we had over almost 1,400 cases, 1,396 cases total. Those are new cases. We are continuing to perform our testing at the county Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays from 10 to noon, and that's providing a gap service. So it's for anybody that does not have insurance or anybody that does not have a provider, primary provider. Other than that, testing in the county, Quadrant Biosciences, part of SUNY Upstate, has opened a testing clinic over at SUNY. They started on Friday, and they actually did just shy of 300 tests on Friday, and they continue to do multiple tests, and that has eased some of the stress on CVPH's site on 23 Hammond. There was a lot of congestion over there with traffic, and that I talked to Nick Leon this afternoon, and he said it has improved. So that's a good thing. We also are continuing our vaccination clinics. We have done, last year we did 17,475 vaccines, just the health department did, that's the number that we did. Year to date, and today was what, the 10th or the 12th? So year to date through the 10th, we've already done 1,150 vaccinations. We continue to vaccinate kids from 5 up to 100 years old, if we get people that old. Our total population that has received at least one dose of vaccine is 75%, and fully vaccinated is just shy of 70%, 69.96%.
That statistic has changed because we're now including everybody from age 5 and up.
Yes.
So we were, if you recall, the number was 75, 76% is when that was prior to the age of being able to receive the vaccine was, it graduated from 18 to 12 to,
Right.
to now 5.
Right.
So that's
So
why
our
the
numbers
percentage
have-
has shrunk a little bit.
Devin, when you say fully vaccinated, I feel like there's always that confusion. Is that including the booster or without the booster?
This data is not including booster.
Not including.
The problem with this, though, is this data is not going to be real accurate because of all the home tests that are happening now, and that's not being captured in any of the state data anymore. So, as far as the test, as far as the positivity, that number's going to be skewed. Our clinics, as I said, we're doing the schools. We have expanded the schools to include the community. So it's not just the kids and the staff of the schools, it's open out to the community. We have some of the clinics are open into the evening, 6 o'clock or so. We also still doing our vaccine clinics over at community college. We've expanded a couple of those to 6 p.m. We've also expanded the volume that we can do because we have asked for assistance from the state, and they have some state assistance, and we can do upwards of 1,000 vaccines a day on that one day. INQ, what can I say about INQ? They have, because of our numbers, we have not been able to keep up. So everybody that is positive, now we have not been able to contact everybody that's positive. The VCC, the state has started to help us. VCC is the virtual call center. They have started to take more of our cases, but the cases that are being contacted are being prioritized. So the priority groups are the K through 12, senior 65 and over, and anybody that lives in a congregate housing. So there are gonna be people out there with isolation only being 5 days now. There's people out there that are never going to be getting a call from us. Isolation is from the date of your first symptom or from the date of your test. So if I have symptoms on Sunday, I get tested on Tuesday, you're already 3 days into your isolation. You may not hear from anybody. So that is one reason that we're starting to prioritize the groups. The state also is prioritizing those same individuals. To say, honestly, we're gonna get to all of those people in those priority groups, that's probably not gonna happen.
No, that same dynamic is not solely with the county, that is happening
That's true.
regional and statewide, so that's, because these numbers, these upstate anyway, the trajectory is the same as Deb just described to you for Clinton County.
One good thing is looking at New York City, their numbers look like they're starting to trend down, and we tend to lag a couple weeks behind. So fingers crossed, maybe first part of February, we might see our numbers starting to trend down. I don't want to say too much right now. Our numbers the last 2 days haven't been as bad. I mean, we were into the 270s. We were at 123 and then 105, so I don't want to jinx us, but any questions?
In case anybody gets calls regarding those isolation or quarantine orders, so I know like some employers, you have to provide some sort of proof that you're quarantined so you can get paid for being out of work. You guys have a website or something, right, where somebody can print it off?
We do. You have to be careful with that though. That is only if the test is in the system. The only tests that get into the system are lab confirmed tests. So if you do a home test, it's not going to get in the system and you're not going to be able to print that off.
Right, so if someone gets a positive rapid antigen test, the little orange boxes, right? The guidance here in Clinton County is that you, if you, first of all, if you get that, do the right thing. However, if you need proper official paperwork, as Kim says, to get paid by your employer, the suggestion is to go get a PCR test, and if that is positive, it'll be in the system, and then there is a link that someone can do to get an automatic isolation and quarantine order.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
And can I just add to that, just for everyone's information, that's also required for people that have, the private employers. There's a very generous health insurance, disability and paid family leave program for people who get COVID, for small employers. So they need those orders too, to qualify for that benefit.
So what we are telling people right now is if you get a positive rapid test, home test, and you don't need official paperwork, stay home for your 5 days. Let the people you've been in contact with know that you're positive. Tell them to watch for symptoms. However, like you said, if you need official paperwork from the county health department, you need to go get a rapid test. I mean, a PCR test.
Anything further?
Just a little math question that over the weekend we had, I think, I didn't write them down, but roughly 726 new cases, yet the isolation showed only something like 483. Now, I realize that some of the 626 would have been tested Wednesday and they didn't get reported till Friday, so that's why they're in there, and maybe by Monday they were, but, it just seemed like we had a lot of new cases, but a couple hundred behind in isolation.
At least.
Yeah.
And the data only shows up as an isolated case once we contact them and we put them in the system as an isolation.
So even though they've tested and you haven't contacted them, they're still not, because you don't know if they're in isolation for one thing, right?
They have not officially been put in isolation.
Right.
Yeah.
They've been tested.
So that's why the numbers lag behind.
Even though
Anything else?
okay.
Legislator Hughes, anything?
I just let you know, formally welcome Deb. I know that the legislature at its organizational meeting passed the resolution. You know, we're very pleased that you're here and you know, it's not the optimum time for someone to take over the role of public health director, but we're very appreciative, and thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. End of, that'd be the end of my report.
Okay. Human Services and Legislator Friday.
Human Services Committee has not met since the last regular meeting. End of report.
You, Personnel Committee has not met since the last regular session. The committee was pulled on resolution number 24, which is on tonight's agenda. And Plattsburgh International Airport, Legislator Paul.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Plattsburgh International Airport Committee has not met since the last regular session. The committee was pulled on resolutions 25 through 27 on tonight's agenda. And I would ask you, if at all possible, we'd be going to executive session at the end of our meeting to talk about the EAS contract at the airport. End of report.
Deborah, thank you again. Thank you. Public Safety, Legislator Pastime.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Public Safety Committee has not met since our last regular session. The committee was pulled on resolutions 28 through 33 on today's agenda. End of report.
Thank you, sir. And Transportation and Legislator Trusser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Transportation Committee has not met since the last regular session. The committee was polled on resolution number 34 on the agenda, and that's the end of the report.
Thank you very much. We will now go to liaison reports. Board of Health. We just had Deb in front of us. As you know, she's been installed as our interim director. So that's a good thing. We're sure that Deb will do a good job. Next, Cooperative Extension, Legislator Timmons.
We will not be meeting until next Tuesday, the 18th.
Discipline review and agreements, Cam, nothing, right? LCLG, Regional Planning Board.
No report. Other than the,
Uh,
we met.
Well, yeah, well, other than I think there is a very serious appointment on tonight's agenda.
You have that.
So your colleague, Mr. Hughes, his appointment was up, it's staggered, and yours was not, but so the reappointment of Mr. Hughes is on the agenda this evening.
And thank you for doing that.
I vote no.
And so does he.
I did too. Soil and Water, Legislators Poirier and Nor Timmons.
No report. We meet next Thursday, the 20th.
Okay. Nothing there, another Workforce Development Board, Legislator.
No report.
We have, Legislator Hall has asked for executive session. Staff member reports, Ms. Gallagher.
Yes, I would like to request an executive session to talk about contractual matters and also pending litigation.
Yeah. And anything else?
No further report.
Mr. Joel.
Very briefly, a couple of items. Number one, we have one outstanding collective bargaining unit contract to negotiate. That is with the Corrections Officers Unit, and those negotiations start next Tuesday is our first meeting. It did expire at the end of last year, but this is the first opportunity the parties have had to have an initial meeting. Jim, remind me again what ETS stands for?
Emergency Temporary
Standard.
Standard.
Thank you. The emergency temporary standard, that is the federal government's OSHA mandate for businesses over 100 persons, that if you're unvaccinated, you have a weekly testing requirement, and that was heard in the federal Supreme Court. So we are waiting a decision on that. There's two pieces, I don't want to get in the weeds, but there's two pieces to that. It based on oral arguments, the experts are saying that it is likely that OSHA requirement will not be effective. But, you know, stranger things have happened. If it is, we are prepared to institute that policy as we as a board have discussed previously. But you know, it's, you know, the tea leaves are such that we may not have to do that, but we're prepared if we have to. And finally, there is a sheet on your desk, if you've not seen it, having to do with the legislative photo for 2022 and 2023. If you are so inclined to purchase a picture, the sheet is there for your views. That is it, Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Okay, before voting on the resolutions, I want to note that the majority of the resolutions have been thoroughly discussed by the appropriate committees, and the legislature is taking action tonight based in large part on the recommendation of those committees. Mr. Zerlo, would you please read the title of the resolutions to be acted upon?
Certainly. Resolution number 11, authorizing the purchasing agent to solicit bids for the purchase of a 1-ton, single-axle, regular cab, heavy-duty, four-wheel drive pickup truck. Buildings and grounds.
Motion, legislator Timmons, second, legislator Perrier. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolution number 12, amending resolution number 801 dated November 10, 2021, titled authorizing various contracts for the year 2022, buildings and grounds.
Motion, legislator Timmons, second, legislator Perrier. Discussion. Roll call.
Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Resolution number 13, authorizing New York State Rental Supplement Program grant application and acceptance, social services.
Motion, legislator Perrier, second, legislator Kretzer. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Resolution number 14, amending resolution number 770 dated December 16, 2020, titled amending resolution 661 dated November 10, 2020, titled authorizing various contracts for the year 2021, social services.
Motion, legislator Kretzer, second, legislator Perrier. Discussion.
Just want to quickly point out, if you look at the details of that resolution, although the rate changes, the total cost of the contract has remained the same.
Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Resolution number 15, authorizing payment of membership dues of real property.
Motion, legislator Timmons, second, legislator Castine. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution number 16, approving appointment to the County of Clinton Industrial Development Agency Board, Legislature.
I'd like to ask for a 4 on that. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 17, approving appointment to the Clinton County Workforce Development Board, Legislature.
4-4, Mr. Timmons?
I'd like to abstain.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to abstain.
Okay, very good. Then that would be 4-3, Mr. Timmons.
4-3, please. Yes.
4-3, 1 abstention.
One
Mr. Kretzer. Resolution passes, sir.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 18, approving reappointment to the Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board, Legislature.
Again, Mr. Perrier, 4-4?
Yes.
4, yes, nobody else abstained, 4-4. Any discussion?
Any other nominees?
You can. I think you're gonna lose it a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Resolution number 19, approving appointments to the Clinton County Planning Board, Planning Department.
Again, 4-4, Mr. Castine?
Certainly.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 20, authorizing contract with Lamb and Lurch, Legislature.
Motion, legislator Timmons. Second, legislator Castine. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution number 21, authorizing elections cybersecurity remediation grant program extension, Board of Elections.
Motion, legislator Castine. Second, legislator Timmons. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried. Resolution number 22, approving County of Clinton investment policy for the year 2022, Treasurer's Office.
Motion, legislator Timmons. Second, legislator Bazzaio. Discussion. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 23, authorizing payment associated with Clinton Community College presidential search, Legislature.
Motion, legislator Henry. Second, legislator Bazzaio. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
No.
Mr. Legislator Perrier votes no. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Carried.
Resolution number 24, approving reclassification of a vacant permanent full-time central services clerk position to a permanent full-time messenger with backfill, central stores.
Motion, legislator Castine. Second, legislator Hall. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 25, authorizing change order number 1 and final with Reichenberg Construction, rehabilitation of runway 1735 pavement phase 2 construction project, Plattsburgh International.
Motion, legislator Hall. Second, legislator Perrier. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution number 26, authorizing lease agreement with the University of Illinois, Plattsburgh International.
Motion, legislator Hall. Second, legislator Timmons. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
But he came to the right place to study cold weather, didn't he? Yeah.
Resolution number 27, authorizing out-of-state travel, Plattsburgh International.
Motion, legislator Hall. Second, legislator Perrier. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Resolution number 28, authorizing payment of various 2022 membership dues, District Attorney's Office.
Motion, legislator Castine. Second, legislator Perrier. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Resolution number 29, authorizing the county treasurer to establish appropriation and corresponding revenue for the District Attorney's Federal Justice Seizure Reserve and State Seizure Reserve, District Attorney's Office.
Motion, legislator Castine. Second, legislator Timmons. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Resolution number 30, authorizing payment of membership dues, Public Defender's Office.
Motion, legislator Castine. Second, legislator Perrier. Discussion? Roll call.
Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Resolution number 31, authorizing contract with Tremura Integrations LLC probation.
Motion, legislator Castine. Second, legislator Hall. Discussion? Roll call.
Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Resolution number 32, authorizing New York State Governor's Traffic Safety Committee Ignition Interlock Device Monitoring Project Grant Application and Acceptance probation.
Motion, legislator Castine. Second, legislator Perrier. Discussion? Roll call.
Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution number 33, authorizing contract extension with Bearcom Group Incorporated Emergency Services.
Motion, legislator Castine. Second, legislator Hall. Discussion? Roll call.
Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Resolution number 34, authorizing the county treasurer to adjust appropriation and corresponding revenue for the Consolidated Local Street and Highway Improvement Program for the purchase of a 2023 tandem plow truck highway.
Motion, legislator Timmons. Second, legislator Cresser. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution number 35, authorizing the Clinton County Treasurer to establish appropriation and corresponding revenue for the Technology Innovation and Election Resource Grant Program, Board of Elections.
Motion, legislator Timmons. Second, legislator Hughes. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Perrier?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution number 36, authorizing the county treasurer to establish appropriation and corresponding revenue for the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act Grant Employment and Training.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to abstain.
Very good. Motion, legislator Timmons. Second, legislator Hughes. Abstention, legislator Cresser. Any discussion? Roll call.
Spurrier,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Kretzer, abstain. Resolution 37, authorizing the county treasurer to establish appropriation and corresponding revenue for the Creating Breastfeeding Friendly Communities Grant, Health Department.
Motion, legislator Timmons. Second, legislator Castine. Discussion? Roll call.
Spurrier,
Yes.
Mr. Hall.
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution number 38, authorizing the county treasurer to establish appropriation and corresponding revenue for the Economic Development Budget Legislature.
Motion, legislator Timmons. Second, legislator Hughes. Discussion? Roll call.
Spurrier,
Yes.
Mr. Hall.
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution number 39, authorizing the county treasurer to establish appropriation and corresponding revenue for the continuing mental health grants for 2022 mental health and addiction.
Motion, legislator Timmons. Second, legislator Hughes. Discussion? Roll call.
Spurrier,
Yes.
Mr. Hall.
Yes.
Carried. No need for 13.2, resolution
No,
rules.
sir.
Does anyone have anything else to come before the legislature? I'd like to entertain a motion to enter into executive session. Motion by legislator Hall, second by legislator Spurrier. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We are in executive session, and